Hello. Today I'd like to review the automated expedited procedure that has come out with the new version 10 for the Layer 7 API gateway. The automated expedited procedure effectively just takes what used to be known as the manual expedited appliance upgrade and automates it using Ansible. Effectively, we're taking export using MySQL dump of the source gateway. And that includes the SSG database and the OAuth toolkit database. And then we perform an import. So we stop the SSG and then import the exported database into the target and then do a restart. Once that's done, we'll have to upgrade the database because in this case, going from 9.4 to 10 is a MySQL upgrade as well. And we'll also have to install the new license file or have the version 10 license file installed on our 9.4 gateway before we do the export. So yeah, in addition to the expedited appliance upgrade where we're doing a MySQL dump, the automated procedure also, in addition to this export database play, we also are able to export and run SSG backup to grab any customizations that need to be backed up directly from the node itself. Might include modular assertions or custom assertions or system properties for those individual nodes. And the backup is the same procedure as backing up your gateway. Let me just find this quickly. And we'll be running what's known as a custom backup, and we'll take a look at what those options are. But effectively, we're going to be running a SSG backup, passing in some customized options. So we will be, and we'll take a look at what those options are in the playbook, but we'll be passing in the CA switch for custom assertions, the config, the ext, modular assertions, MA, and the OS for any operating system configuration files. We won't be doing the main DB or any audit files. The main DB will be captured doing the MySQL dump and import using the expedited upgrade procedure. All right, so to get started on this, we go to the online GitHub repo for our Gateway Ansible playbook and go ahead and clone it. Once you get started, there will be some setup and prerequisites that will be required for your control node. In this case, for this demo, my control node is my Mac. My targets are going to be 4 different VMs. Everything's running in parallel. So in this demo, we'll be taking a version 9.4 Red Hat cluster running, and then a CentOS version 10 cluster running at the same time. We'll be extracting the backup and the SSG from nodes that are entitled rel.94.demo and slave.94.demo. And we'll be restoring into a target environment where the host names are centos.10.demo and slave.10.demo. But in the end, the policies, the certificates, and the host names and everything should reflect the original source environment. To get started, we see I've cloned my repo here. And if we take a look at the prerequisites on the node, to get started, pip is the recommended approach to install the dependencies. You can get started by getting pip following the instructions here, and then you can simply pip install Ansible and upgrade, or use any of the other documented installation methods for Ansible. On the Ansible control node, you'll also need a Python module called pexpect. Also need to install SSH pass, which will allow us to do interactive interaction with the gateway in a headless manner. This next bullet point is particularly important if you're upgrading in place or you're doing a hardware appliance migration, because you want to ensure that your MySQL source is able to be upgraded to the target version. And so MySQL shell allows you to do an upgrade checker command to validate that's true. Any development tools you'd like to use, recommended, or Visual Studio Code. It's very easy and you can execute the Ansible playbooks directly from your IDE. And to get started, once you clone it, we will add the machine inventories to our hosts.yaml file. And then we'll update the passwords to what we'd like them to be in our Ansible Vault section. And then we'll get started. We'll be running an auto checker on our source environment to evaluate whether or not they can be upgraded and any customizations that are on there. And we have a tutorial here that we'll walk through. And of course, we encourage writing your own playbooks and adding extensions. For anything that you think might be common, feel free to issue a pull request. Our developers would be happy to include others' add-ons for this. All right, the tutorial is here. It kind of just walks through the green blocks or what will be automated using the Ansible playbooks. We'll start by doing a MySQL dump on the source gateway and then running that ssgbackup command for that custom backup. And then we'll be, our case, our 2 nodes will be running. So we'll do database replication, configure the gateways themselves, import the SSG database, restore the backup, and then upgrade the database to their target and import the license file. So to get started, we'll go into the inventory/sample directory where you'll find a hosts.yaml file. And that's where we will update with our source and target gateways. If we take a look at my inventories host.yaml file. To get started on line 9, you'll see we have our primary database, and I've declared that as rel.94.demo. I also had to declare something called a source. So when we're doing a restore from one of our backups, we'll have to declare the source for that backup. In this case, it's just the same. So my source environment is going to be my rel94.demo. And same with my failover database. Slave.94.demo is the host name. And again, if I do a backup and restore, I'll be restoring it from the same source. So those are my hosts. The only other thing you'll really need to change right away is under the all directory, we have our Vault passwords added in here. You'll notice that for my SSG config password or root password, I just have plain text set up. I wanted to call this out because you do have to have a certain password complexity in order to reset the initial default gateway password, which is 7-layer by default. And you can see I've added that as an encrypted value using Ansible Vault there. And then you can set your administrative password for the policy manager. You can see I set that password here, just again using plain text to make it easy, but of course you'd want to encrypt your sensitive passwords in production. In addition to the passwords, under our vars file here, you can see any customizations that you might need to make or other connection property, including the database user, the passwords. I did customize and change a couple of locations of output files. So we have something called a controller backup location. So this is the location on the Ansible controller where we'd like the backup files to be located. So I changed that to be a more friendly directory. And then also with my database of my SSG database dump, I changed the directory here from the default. Other than that, the only other note that might catch it is where you put your version 10 license file to be picked up and installed in your new environment. I have that under temp license. So let's just make sure I have a temp license available. So I've got one available under that directory on my controller. So that should be good. All right, so with that, we should be ready to start. Once the gateway configurations have been set up, the passwords have been added, then we can go ahead and execute what we know, this pre-upgrade analyzer. In this case, let's bring up a shell. Go ahead and execute that analyzer. All right, so what we can see executing is on my hosts file. I've got a couple of hosts, my rel94 and my slave94. And it's going to go out and it'll gather facts and it will collect the modular assertions, the custom assertions, any module files, any specifically installed RPMs that are defined. And it'll go out, it'll generate the report output, and then it'll go ahead and clean up when you're all done. So from the directory where I ran that, I now have this new directory entitled Pre-Upgrade Analyzer Reports. We can see that that's been executed for both of my targets, rel 9.4 and slave 9.4. So if I take a look at the report that comes out, here I can see the user that executed this particular playbook, so I can execute this as SSG config. Some of the playbooks I'll have to execute as root. We'll cover that shortly. You can see my modular assertions, custom assertions, server module files, external libraries, the results of all of the RPMs, and also the result of the MySQL 8 compatibility checker. We will see some warnings specifically from my OAuth database schema, but in the end we can come and look at the final report, which shows 0 errors and no fatal errors that would prevent an upgrade. So in that case, what we'd want to do is go through each of the nodes and validate that the output for each of those was the same for each of these nodes, and there are no surprises. All right. Once we've decided that we're ready to go forward and we'd like to do an export of the database, let me just follow along here. So we executed our gateway pre-upgrade analyzer. Now we'd like to go ahead and run gateway database export to export our SSG and OAuth databases. In this case, it is just pulling the definition of the SSG database from our primary. And we can see that by the execution node doesn't change from our rel 9.4 demo. And if we go to our outputs now, I changed the directory. So now we can see our output directory here under Playbooks. And we have the database dump in zip file from our rel 9.4.demo gateway. All right, now that we have the database exported, now we want to go ahead and we'd like to run just a basic backup of this. But before we can execute this particular role, the backup or SSG backup cannot be executed as SSG config user, which is what we're currently configured to run as. So this particular role has to be executed as a root user. And you can change or edit your users to be root in the hosts file. So if we go back to our inventories and take a look at our hosts directory, you'll notice that here I can uncomment this line and execute as Ansible user root. And in these gateways, I've configured them to allow root SSH access. Else you'd have to configure another user with SSH access that has admin privileges. And now we can run the gateway basic backup using our root user. And this will run against both nodes. Excellent. Now we can see that the backups have run. If we go back to that changed output directory, in addition to our MySQL backup, now we have our SSG backup. This is that customized backup for both our rel and our 9.4. One of the notes about the customized backup, I said that you can pass in different switches. So under the vars directory in our basic backup role, we can take a look at the switches that we're passing in. Here we can see the operating system, the config, custom assertions, modular assertions, excuse me. And then the ext switch passes in anything in the ops secure span gateway runtime lib ext directory. So all of that has been captured and we're ready to go. So if we go back to our green boxes here, what we've done is we've taken a look at the prerequisites, the preparation. We exported our SSG and OAuth databases from the source. We ran a gateway backup on both of those. And now we're ready to start working on our new target environment.